Juste une faille dans mon cœur attend pour la peinture au mur et les bandes en cul nu. Juste une faille dans mon bleu battant. Le stress est accru par l'ennui vécu. Une feuille tombante, anxiété latente. Pas envie de recommencer ce qu'on foirait les parents. C'est bon, je l'ai vu cru, ça fait aïe aïe. Moi de toute façon j'ai besoin de flow et dessus du temps. J'ai besoin d'être sûr que t'es la bonne pour me faire oublier toutes mes peurs et failles. Trop de failles, pas me craille, non. Trop de failles, j'ai le cœur entaillé. Trop de failles, vas-y me craille.
The reason why we wanted to create an event like today was to focus on what the younger generation of women who are going to inherit this earth and the patriarchy and all of perhaps the future world and what that may look like with all of its challenges, and all the work that's been done as the legacy that we will leave behind, and to hear from each one of them also offering a perspective perhaps as a woman who either lives as a person of colour or works with lots of women and men in the multicultural spaces. I'd also like to note that there's been statistics floated and figures, in actual fact, talking about how it will probably take another 108 years to achieve what we deem gender equality or gender equity. And let's not even talk about the gender pay gap. I think it's even longer, maybe a couple of 100 years, okay? And before I launch into the bios and introduce each of the panelists here, I'd also like to welcome Maria Osman to today's event. This actually was her suggestion, so I'd like to give credit to her for that. She's been a great supporter of Roots TV and the work that we've done. She's one of my sheroes. She was also one of the panelists last year when we hosted International Women's Day at Yakwa. Thank you, Tamkin, for arranging that as well. And I think this is a natural progression in the right direction. I think, Maria, you were right to say that, you know, there was a gap in the market, especially around International Women's Day events, with more women of colour and of a younger generation providing their perspectives. I'm going to say this as well. My personal experience in attending these kinds of events is you pay $70, right, to have a lovely lunch, and then you wonder, where is the diversity and representation in the room? We talk about gender equality and accessibility, and yet there's only a certain class of women or people in the room who where are the women out there who are that's what International Women's Day is really all about. And it seemed to me such a blatant irony, and it got me angry. I thought, am I the only one who's recognised this? Where are all of the other fancy schmancy events? I mean, you know, I would love for us to head in that direction. Hopefully we'll get some funding and support next year. But I think at every fancy event there should at least be a dedicated table of women, not the token women, but it should be a real nod to what this movement is all about, okay? Otherwise it's just sort of reinventing the wheel and supporting certain agendas, and hence the reason we have 108 years to go. So let's not be here.
That's not 108 years for all women.
No.
That statistic and that progression is based on research that talks about majority women. So it's longer for women of colour, minority women, and different ethnicities.
And do you know, have they...
1,000 years.
1,000 years? Just a millennial.
That is the projection that is on the figures that we've got at the moment.
Yeah.
But they tend to only look at the top level.
And what does that even say about that statistic? That statistic in itself is really missing the bigger picture, I think, as well. So there you go. Wins All right. So, do you have a personal role model?
Only recently, in the last year or so, but I'd say Meghan Markle. I love what she stands for. Yeah, I love how she carries herself, the way she speaks, and her opinions on things, and despite the amount of hate that she gets, she's still managed to keep it together and be a great role model. I love her. She's probably one of the only people that I look up to, just based on what I've seen, the way she speaks and everything.
Why do you say that she's only maybe one of? Was it hard for you to think about other role models as well?
Yeah.
Do you think, yeah.
Yeah, it was,
Okay.
yeah.
And do you think that's something that other people may relate to, that it's really difficult sometimes to locate a role model out there?
I do, yeah. I think it's hard to find someone that has the same values as you, that is famous, I guess. Yeah. So she seems to, it could be fake or not, because I don't know her personally, but she seems to be a genuine woman.
What's her name?
Meghan Markle.
Okay.
Yeah, with Prince Harry.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I love her too.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
awesome, yeah. And obviously, she's not the mould of what the royal family wanted. And
Yeah.
no kidding.
Yeah, really.
And it would have been very tough for her to even be in that situation, be obviously not 100% white, and that's what they are. And yeah, I reckon it would be really difficult for her to be in that situation and still hold it together and be classy and speak well. And yeah, I've seen her almost get upset on camera once, and it was, yeah, she said she gets no support.
Yeah, it's that documentary.
I like it. Yeah, the documentary, yeah.
Yeah.
Style performers, and our family's never been extremely well off. So she created a drama group for youth, for my friends and I, to help us get opportunities to push ourselves into the performing arts industry, because since not all of us had the thousands and thousands of dollars to put towards courses and
Fathers are very important to tourists. Yeah. So, thank you so much, Amy. Khulud, what about you? You have any role models?
In terms of a role model, mine would probably be Yasmin Abdul-Majid. I'm not sure if everyone knows who she is. And the reason being that she's a very good example of someone who is constantly breaking stereotypes and entering spaces that she wouldn't normally be welcome in. And just the fact that she's someone that looks like me as well. So just in terms of like the scarf, the religion, she's African as well, and yeah, just the work that she does really.
Have you had a chance to meet her and tell her
I have,
yourself?
yeah. So I went to one of her book signings that she had at UWA a year ago.
Yeah.
Amazing, like she's actually living her like luxurious life to go help us. But then nowadays there's so much white savior complex that happens in our countries. So I think like the past, I'd say 8 years at least, my mum has definitely been the first person that I think of when someone asks me who my role model would be, because like she left her country, she left her job, she was like principal at a school, she was a well-educated woman, my dad was in a good job, but she had to leave not knowing my dad was alive or dead. So I think being so resilient and being so powerful and carrying yourself is something that people don't often see all the time. Like you want to see Meghan Markle, like she's such an amazing woman, right? And I think you wouldn't be able to see how she actually fights through all those issues. And for me, seeing my mom fight through it has been very, I guess, refreshing. Yeah, so definitely my mom. Yeah.
But it's interesting.
Juste une faille dans mon cœur attend pour la peinture au mur et les
ethnic diversity, and like my sister over there, I'm African as well, although my skin looks a little bit different than hers. It's in the eyes, if you can't see it. It's in the eyes, in the heart.
Yes.
Spirit. But as a background, I also grew up with much more privilege than many. But I certainly also had my fair share of abuse and court cases, and eventually running away from home and having to start all over by myself and building everything that I have achieved from scratch. So there's some understanding there. And my question to you is, I'm obviously from a different generation than the four of you, and my question is, do you think that you experience different challenges? I would imagine my generation had very different gender-specific challenges than you would experience. We were talking earlier about when you were born, and Gen Z is 1997 onwards, and before that it's millennials, if you want to know where you fit into that. And specifically Generation Z, I think, grow up with boys now that don't see colour and gender certainly in the same way that boys in my time saw those concepts. So with regards to the question on barriers, do you think you have different barriers, or how do you see those barriers? And obviously you don't necessarily know how I've seen them as someone who's grown up in a different generation, but I hear a different narrative from younger people now than I think what we've experienced.
Thank you so much. Great question. Tanya, so who'd like to?
I feel like the traditional gender roles have changed from, possibly your generation to what it is now, but for example, like in the workplace, there's still a level of respect you still find that males get that females don't. But yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
Do you mean in terms of sorry, because your question was sorry.
So I was very
I got so deep into your story, and then I was like, yes, that question is really deep as well. But do you mean in terms of how, I guess, the younger male generation now interacts with us compared to your generation? Is that what?
Yes, I'd like to think from what I observed that the younger.
I reached out to Aisha, I said, girl, I am with you. I said, how dare you not involve me in everything? We went out dancing.
I will never make that mistake.
Feminine ladies, we must pull together. That's how we take that 1,000 years down to 100. Part of me. All right, and these are the type of conversations we need to be having on days like this. And I love each and every one of you. All right.
Une faille dans mon cœur attend pour la peinture au mur et les bambins en cul nu. Juste une faille dans et battant. Le stress est accru par l'envie vécu. Une feuille tombante, anxiété latente. Pas envie de recommencer ce qu'on foirait les parents. C'est bon, je l'ai vu cru, ça fait aïe, aïe. Moi de toute façon, j'ai besoin de flow au-dessus du temps. J'ai besoin d'être sûr que t'es la bonne pour faire.
There's so much I'd like to say, but the first thing is okay, I'll just do it. Tada, shukran, thank you, ta. It's incredible to sit here. When I was 3 or 4 decades younger, this just didn't exist. It literally didn't exist, and it is just so inspiring and uplifting and exciting and frustrating and fury-raising to be here. So thank you. Thank you. I feel like acceptance is so important foundationally, and then we gotta go right on beyond it, right? Because I can accept myself, and that means maybe I'm pretending that I'm okay. If I can love myself and radiate like that's another, because doesn't holiness and the Holy One shine through us all?
Of it, but maybe just alluding to it if you feel there's enough of that rapport between you and the wife.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like cool, like I'll be able to go, these are all people that if I see you out, like even if I haven't spoken to you today or you haven't spoken to me today, I'll be like, hey, like let's talk, and that's not going to be a weird thing. And I think that this is a huge progression, especially like in Perth, which is a place that's super cliquey and like, you know, people are so selective and like, you know, I can't talk to you because you talked about that. Like what? Like it's really,
so true.
Yeah.
Is that just a Perth thing though?
I feel like it's more, it's worse.
Perth's so small.
It's worse in Perth. Yeah.
Definitely a Perth thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people make assumptions about certain people, and there isn't as much like that openness and warmth of like, let me just talk to somebody, like I don't know where it's going to lead, but let me just have a chat with somebody. So I think this is really exciting for me, knowing that there's spaces like this being created and that this is going to be
can go back just to let her know how it's gonna go in the future. Now you're selling all of that dope. You try to stay woke, you're scared to go broke. Your mama stay woke, asking son come home. The answer is no, mom. I'll be calmer when I'm older, and you can cry upon my shoulder. And every minute y'all hold you, and we can cruise around in that Rover, and maybe we can get a little closer. But ma, salute to you, you my soldier. Yeah, salute to you, you my soldier. Ma, salute to you, you my soldier. Yeah, that's what he said till he dropped dead. Now everybody asking, did he get to say what he said, or were all those words, yeah, stuck in his head? Now you got your mama laying up all in her bed, saying it's what I should have done, it's what I could have done, and now he's gone and I'm done. That's my only son. Why don't you just tell her you love her? Put in someone you just met right above her. Let me tell you something, heaven's at her feet. So how about you elevate her status, give heaven a peek? And I know I got you all shaking through these words that I speak, but pseudo chick, every bar I spit is from the heart, yeah, it's deep. Okay, and I know I haven't reached my peak, but I swear I'ma stick to this rap game. I'ma